Hello and welcome to the Knit Girls. This is episode 561. I'm Laura, also known as Lala.
I am Leslie, also known as You Don't Call Me Les. Today is
Saturday.
Yep, the 5th of February 2022. And we both Laura and I use the she, her pronouns. And it's been really cold this week. Laura at school had two
ice storm days. So we had an ice storm move through Wednesday night, Thursday morning, and it took down the power at my house for around 9 hours. It also took down my internet. I haven't had internet since Thursday, like Thursday morning, and I really want to watch the Olympics. I can't because I don't have any way of doing that. I stream and stuff, and Comcast is not being super helpful. Usually they have like a text notification system, like, hey, we're working on this, it'll be back up in so many hours. Nope, their text notification system's down as well. So it looks like it might be Monday or Tuesday before I get internet. We'll see, because there's no one out working on it either.
You know, we say this with a grain of salt. We realize that,
that's not like a first world problem at all
or anything. It's just,
me watching the Olympics is not going to cause anyone to do anything better or worse, but it's just annoying.
Just a thing that's happening.
Yeah, I miss a bunch of Zooms. It makes me sad, but it's fine.
Oh, see, you miss a bunch of Zooms, it makes you sad. I miss a bunch of Zooms, and I'm like, oh man, that's too bad.
These are social Zooms. Yeah. They're not like
my
work
social Zooms are very rare because I'm on Zooms all day for work.
You're on Teams.
Well, yeah, but when it comes to like conference, like audio or video conferencing, I typically use Zoom because Teams crashes my computer if I try to.
Oh, okay.
To use it for that.
Because Teams is amazing.
It is better in regards to like aggregating conversations. We used to use a product called Microsoft Link, which was more, it looked more like AOL chat used to.
Yeah. But, I'm very familiar with AOL chat.
Yeah.
We are of that generation.
Yes. But where every chat was its own window, and I like that Teams aggregates it at least. So anyway, it's not a conversation about
different video conferencing softwares.
Yeah, it's a podcast about crafting primarily. So
sometimes
I actually need to check and see where I am in regards to decreases on the sock. So
I can go first.
Yeah, why don't you go first?
Yeah, absolutely. I am knitting a toe-up sock using some Knit Spin farm yarn on size 1 needles. This is the Deep Woods Winter Solstice Celebration colorway. I am digging it quite a lot. I knit my, this is her Targhee Sport Base, Knit Spin Farms Targhee Sport Base, and I knit this on size 1 needles, because that's just the kind of knitter I am. So this is the finished first sock, because I've been reading on my Kindle and knitting, since I have nothing else to do. So the first one is completely done. This is Wendy Johnson's Toe Up with Gusset pattern, which is free on her website, which is wendyknits.net. Wendy retired recent, like a year ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So she's been doing some really, really cool things. She's a fun person to follow on Instagram, including sewing. So she's sewing garments now.
Cool.
Yeah.
I can see that as a very Wendy thing.
Absolutely. So the first one is done. I need to weave in the ends. The second one is in progress. I worked on this morning a good bit and some yesterday. And it is living in my Fat Squirrel gnome bag. This is her sock size bag. So that is the first thing on my needles. The second thing on my needles isn't really on my needles because it's a swatch and I finished it. I tend to swatch large. So this is 8 inches across. And I am swatching for the Felix Pullover by Amy Christoffers. Is it Christoffers or Christophers? Christoffers.
I asked her in person.
I'm glad you did. And it's funny because after washing this, so this is the yarn. It is Imperial yarn. They're Columbia based. I got this on clearance several years ago, so I don't know that it's still being manufactured. and it's a little bit smaller. It's a 2-ply woolen spun than what the pattern calls for, but I swatched on size 9s instead of 10s. I think I'm right on with gauge, but they must have used spinning oil or something, because it definitely plumped up a little bit after the washing. Like, do you see how that strand is much different than, like, this is the wash strand, and that's in the, so it looks like it's plumped up a little bit. You'll have to take my word for it. It has. So I think I am going to go forward with this. It's a little bit loose still. Like, if you do the window pane type test and stretch it out.
But it's not something you would wear without something underneath.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fine for a layering piece. The original pattern calls it for it to be cropped. I have enough yarn to make it not cropped, so I'll probably extend it. We'll see. It's a top-down raglan style pattern with lace details right here. So I will just go until I run out of yarn. I'll probably do the sleeves first,
so that you can get as much length.
Yeah, and see how I go with length. But I have like 400 extra yards and a giant swatch that I can pull from. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, so that'll be good. And then the last thing that I cast on, there was lots of casting on this week since there was no internet. I had pulled yarn to knit the Musselburgh hat by Isolde Teak. This is some of my hand spun. It is hand spun from Rebecca of Daedalus. She's not dyeing fiber right now, but this was a really cool like silk, sparkle, and wool base that she had me try, and then she went back and changed a couple things on it, changed the sparkle content. So the Musselburgh is knit from the top down, which is nice because you don't have to gauge swatch. You just knit like a couple inches, and then you measure your gauge, and then you go to a certain number of stitches, and then you knit a big long tube and you double it, which I think will be pretty handy with this, because one thing I love about knitting with hand spun is you can see how you messed up, which you might not be able to see in the cake. So I added, like in the cake, I think this looks pretty good, but when I'm knitting with it, I've noticed that I added a lot of twist, a lot more than this fiber necessarily needed. So with this pattern, what I can do is knit the outer hat with this and do the inner if I decide to with like an alpaca or something else. That'll really make it very luxurious and soft on the inside. So we're gonna see how it goes. But yeah, that is what I have on my needles. And I was telling Loslie earlier, I have no 16-inch size 3s. In fact, I have very few pairs of size 3s. You can tell by the cord, this is an old set of Addies. So I had to order a pair from Simply Sock Company. I tried to get them from Lubu because they are going out of business and have a sale going on, but their needle stock was gone.
They're retiring.
Yep.
I think, don't know that's considered different than going out of business. I think Sherry's just ready to retire.
Well, she's doing cross stitch instead. Like they're keeping the cross stitch company. I don't know.
Okay.
I would just, maybe I'm confused, but that's what it seemed like from that email. I don't know. But yeah. So that is slowly getting worked on. And yeah, I'm not in a hurry with any of this stuff right now. I'd like to get the Felix knit during the Olympics. Not that it's an Olympic project, but I would like to get it so I could actually wear it this season. And it's cold out right now.
Right now.
This moment. I
actually wore the flax that you knit in that blue
flax
wool. I think it's flax. It was a pullover and it had that seed stitch.
That's Isolde Teague's
whatever that pattern was that you knit and then gave to me.
Yeah, it's a Isolde Teague pattern.
I wore that to the dentist yesterday because it was so cold outside.
Yeah. It does have detail on the sleeve, so I could see why you would get it confused with flax. I did that for Camp Loopy one year. And it was too...
shoulder wide, I think. For you.
And short.
Really? Because it's so long on me.
Yeah, I just used, I think, 4 skeins of the Malabrigo, their sport weight, and it just wasn't enough. But yeah, it probably also, maybe the shoulder detail. I'll have to try that back on. Also, it was too wide for me at that point in time. But things have changed over the last 10 years. It has to be almost 10 years ago I did that.
I don't know. But
yeah.
It was in my closet, and I was like, yeah, this is warm. I'll take this.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I've been knitting on a couple things. The first is a pair of Knit Spin Farm socks in the something Heart with Art. Inspire Your Heart with Art. That's the colorway.
That's cute.
So this was sock number 1, and this was finished last week. No pattern. I just used 56 stitches. I do a simple slip stitch flat heel, and I do what's called the rounder heel if you use the heels by number.
So here's a question: what size needles are you knitting those on? Because I'm also knitting on size 56. I'm also knitting on 56 stitches.
For this, because I've knit with this particular base like a half a dozen times, I always use a size 3 because I know that works. So for me, that's a...
And your gauge is probably smaller than mine.
2.75 millimeter.
On a size 1.
Yeah, where's your first sock? So...
Because I have larger feet than Leslie does.
Laura is a looser knitter than me, and I'm a tighter knitter. So even though we are using the same...
stitch count,
and she's using a smaller needle...
Size 1s.
Hers are a little bit wider than mine. So, and they're longer. These aren't for me. Mine would be a little bit longer than this, but, yeah, so same base, exact same base, just different, it's just a difference in how we knit.
And I'm actually going to cast on that next. My sister's birthday is tomorrow.
This would be a great color for your sister.
And that's who's going to get it.
Yeah, so this is sock number 1, and then I think I had just cast on sock number 2. And I'm pretty close to being done with it. I'm about to start the toe decreases. I've got another like 6 rows before I start the toe decreases. And
cool.
So I'll have these finished by next week, maybe by the end of the day. We'll see. And I have to like weave in ends, and there's a little section by the heel where I've got a loose stitch that I need to go in and just snug that up. But aside from that, I love knitting with Joanna's base, Knit Spin Farm.
Yep.
Because it's a really bouncy blend, and it's
just Targy, which is super bouncy.
And nylon, I think there's 10% nylon,
mm-hmm.
So it's a really great blend, and it's sport, so it knits up quicker than fingering weight. So, yep, that's number 1, and that lives in a Rainstorm Studios bag.
And if you're interested in Joanna's yarn, she has some colorways up as of right now for pre-order, because I almost got Hey, H-E-Y girl, because it's gorgeous. But I was like, how much Targy sock yarn do you need, Laura, Catherine?
From this specific dyer. Joanna's a lovely human.
Yes.
And we're happy to support her.
And we're in her sock club, so we've gotten a skein a month for the last 4 years. So our stashes are full, as are our hearts. She makes great yarn.
So this is a bag from Amy Beth.
Oh, the Fat Squirrel.
And this was at the last SSK that we had, which was
2019.
At SSK, which is our summer retreat, which we haven't had for the past couple of years because of COVID, Laura and I, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of fun, but the only like sort of perk when it comes to running the retreat is that we get into the market before other people. This was
not all the market, but not all the people, I should say. We get to get into the market, but sometimes we have like golden ticket winners who also get to get in.
We get into the market before it gets totally crazy,
before the grand beginning.
So I'm knitting the Solstice Pullover. And apparently I pronounced the name wrong again last time. This is by Marie-Christine Levesque. So it's a pullover top with drop shoulders and a brioche yoke. I don't know if yoke is the right term, but top section. And I finished the body of it. So
I feel like yoke is the...
I mean, I think it is, but I don't know. So I had done, I made the neck a little more scoop necky versus the way it's written, it's more boat necky. And I don't like it to be right up on my neck. I prefer a little bit of a dip there. So I did the neck ribbing afterwards. And it has a split hem at the bottom.
Nice.
Yep, so this is where I was last week. It was still in the round. So I had maybe another 2.5 inches or so. Then I did the ribbing, and then I came up and did the neck ribbing. So now I've just got sleeves to go, and they're so much fun that I put them off.
You'll get there.
But they are easy because they're just stocking it in the round with the creases every now and then. Although the way that the sleeves are written for this, there are no decreases until you get very close to.
No, I would have to change that.
Because it's designed to be a little bit puffy right here at the ribbing. But I'll just take however many decreases are written here, like right before the ribbing, and I'll distribute them throughout the number of rows.
It's a smidge of math.
Yeah, but it's not terrible.
No.
Plus, if it's off by, 4 stitches or whatever, it's not the end of the world. So, yeah. This yarn is just so...
I love her stuff.
It's so luxurious feeling to knit with. And it's such a beautiful yarn that I can definitely see knitting some more
yeah.
of it. I really love the way this feels.
I'll see her at Maryland Sheep and Woolen. Yep. I can go shopping for you.
So, yeah, this is really happy. And it makes me happy. So
good.
Yep, that's what I'm working on. I guess I can probably take this stitch progress keeper thing off. Put it there. What about finished things? Do you have anything finished?
I do have one finished thing. I finished the foolproof out of the Hello Yarn Patchwork Kit. It is over here. I'm using Leslie's small basket off to the side to hold all my stuff. So it looks like this. Boom. That's one side. That's the other side. So yeah, I think it'll be it's a cowl. I think it'll be nice for my friends to double over. You can do like the short and the long. You could do both short, both long. Not both short, but both long. Yeah, so I'm super happy with how it came out. I hope she has too. All the ends are woven in. It's all blocked. It's ready to go. So, yeah. It's a nice, easy pattern to use up bits and pieces of yarn, for sure.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny to feel like the different, like there's definitely like a merino over here, but this is more of a Cordale.
So this was a used paint box kit, which
not paint box. What is it? The Hello Yarn patchwork kit.
Patchwork. That's what I meant. Sorry. And that's where she groups by color family, and so you can have any kind of base in there.
Yeah. So when you dye roving or top in this case, you then separate it out. She might dye a pound at a time or a little over a pound at a time, and then she separates it out into 4-ounce braids. And sometimes there's a little left over, and that's what goes into her patchwork kits, which she sells on her website, which are some of my favorite things to buy because they're just fun, and you never know what you're gonna get. So that is my finished object, and that is going to go live with a friend. And yeah, super happy with that. What have you finished, friend?
Both of my finished objects are also going to go live with friends.
Awesome.
Which is great because I don't need more stuff in my house. So thing number 1 is a Josephine Jumper, and before I get too far in, I'll put a picture of it here. So this is a knit top. It's made out of knit fabric. It's not actually knit, it's sewn. And it's got a really drapey front, which is great for breastfeeding. And it's going to a friend of mine who just had a baby.
Yay.
I don't know for sure if she's breastfeeding or not, but either way, it's, you know, it's very forgiving.
Yeah. It'll allow for some skin time, which is another thing that babies need.
So it's, this is on my dress form that doesn't actually reflect my size, but I got ages ago at Goodwill for like $10. So it's just a really drapey top, and it actually has enough of a drape that you can use it with a hood.
Oh, nice.
Or you can pull back either side if you're going to use it to breastfeed. So it's very forgiving. I plan to make one for myself just because I like the way that it looks.
Yeah, it looks great.
And
you just wear it with a cami underneath, you're good to go.
Yeah, and there's enough draping that I feel like it helps deflect from like emphasis on fat rolls or parts of your body that you may not love. So yeah, I'm going to make another one of those, but that one's going to live with a friend of mine. And the other thing that I made, which is done but not done, so I made a set of rope bowls. I had started on the first one last week, and once I sort of figured out the stitch length and stitch width, these went really quickly. The biggest one is about 8 inches at the base, and then about 6 inches at the base. And then this one's about 4 inches at the base.
I find rope bowls so handy.
And so I just did a very simple closure where I pulled it under and sewed a simple like ribbon over the top of it to close it. I haven't trimmed all the little thread ends off of these, but I'm going to actually ombre dye them. So what I did is I got some Rit dye, which is a fabric dye that you can get at
Joann's,
Michael's, yeah, Michael's,
big box stores,
like a Walmart. Typically will have Rit dyes, and so the plan, and I found this on Rit's website, and I'll put a link in the show notes. The show notes are on our website, which is TheKnitGirlls with 3Ls.com. And the idea is that you take very, very hot water and you mix in the dye and whatever the concentration that they recommend. And then you essentially just set the bowl in it, and after the bowl has completely been immersed in water, so it's wet, like the fibers are wet. So then you put the bowl in the water, but only, you know, a little bit at the bottom, and so the color will slowly seep upwards.
Oh, cool.
So it creates its own ombre that way.
What colors did you do?
Oh, they're all going to be purple.
Oh, fun.
So, yeah, the only thing is you have to sort of watch it, and it typically, the example one that they did was about the size of my medium one, and they said in about 15 minutes it was done. So I just need to be downstairs and watching it, you know, while it's doing the dyeing, or it'll end up solid, which wouldn't be bad necessarily.
No.
But
it's not what you're looking for, though.
And the biggest one I put little handles on the side, but the smaller ones well, actually that's a dirty lie. I did put totally forgot that, but I don't think I did on the smallest one.
It'll be nice yarn bowls.
Yeah. So,
or fiber bowls or whatever.
I'll show this once it's been dyed. Hopefully I'll be able to do that at some point this week. And yeah, that's my finished thing. So
cool.
I have no spinning, so the rest of the show is all Laura.
That's not true. You have reading and stuff. So I did do some spinning. I am working on a couple different things, and all but one of these are, well, all of the finished but one are finished. So the first thing I want to show is this is a combo spin. So I took two similar braids and put them together. This is from Wee Chickadee, and it was on My Way and Old Pine. Those two braids together, both were Cordale, and I just spun one on one bobbin, one on the other, and plied them together. 740 yards of a 2-ply. I do have a good bit of the Old Pine still left on a bobbin that I'm going to take and spin finish plying, and then I should have enough. This is going to a sweater. So it's going to go to the Shayna Lines, one that has the panel in the front.
Recalibration.
Yeah, recalibrate. So that will be for that. And it'll be different colors for me. I don't do a lot of browns, so I'm kind of stoked about that. So that is the first one. And it's got an intended project, which was nice. They always had an intended project, which was nice. And then the second thing, none of the rest, well, some of the rest have intended projects, but this one does not. This is Cordale from Hello Yarn in the Eat, Pray, P-R-E-Y, Love colorway. It is 430 yards of a 2-ply. I spun it on the Starling. I spun the other one on the Starling as well and plied on the mini spinner. So just a really fun purpley with a bit of scrummy green every once in a while. Just spun end to end. And then the last are singles to say singles. So these are, and you're gonna see how much, can you see how much, like, there's fuzz? That's actually the silk. So singles to say singles, if it has silk content, it tends to fuzz out. There's lots of ends. So this will be folds, which is on the felted spectrum, but not completely felted. So I will take this and take it from hot water to cold water, and I have a sink plunger that I'll use with it, and it'll be finished. The sink plunger
is to create friction.
Yep.
For those who may not know.
So I'll probably use some Dawn dish detergent with it as well, and maybe do a vinegar soak at the end, because wool type protein fibers like a more acidic environment. So yeah, this is Bicycling in the Park by Hip Strings. I got it at SSK in 2019, and it is a merino silk combination. And then the last little bits and pieces, I am spinning my Inglenook Advent calendar up. So I have 3 little mini skeins. So these come.
So are you spinning those as a single, and then is it Andy and Ply?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But I could.
But so you're splitting them.
I'm splitting them.
All right.
I'm getting there. So they come in a little packet like this. And I'm using my Lendrum wheel because it has a good amount. Well, when I am switching bobbins a lot, I like the Lendrum because it's very easy to switch bobbins on. So they come in little, like,
nestlet
bats, and each bat is around.
So what's the difference between a bat and a nestlet?
Nestlet's not a fiber term. It's just a term that people sometimes use to describe bats that are folded over. No, you're fine. So it's bats. It's a bat. It's been taken off of a drum carder. And then it's around a little less than half an ounce. So I think when I weighed, they were around 12 grams. 10 to 12 grams. And they've got sari silk and lots of inclusions. And on the bobbins, they look like this. So I'm dividing the bats in half, and then spinning. I'm actually spinning them worsted because the yarn that I want is worsted for this. I'm going to knit a shawl out of all of them. And so then they get plied, and they're like 20 to 30 yards each. So these have not been washed yet. So I have 12 of them to do. I'm on number 6. So yeah, just doing like one a day. Okay.
Let me start with a statement. I'm surprised that you're going through all the faff of, I say faff, all the work of splitting them and then plying them together. I'm not criticizing, I'm just a little bit surprised. So I guess my question would be, if you know you're going to spin them all this way, why not just add a lead on after every batlet and then So you've got bobbin A and bobbin B, and you're using, you know, yarn or fiber number 1.
You
so
why am I not
spinning it on top of each other?
all of them and doing it end to end?
Well, not necessarily end to end, but now that you've spun, let's call that specific green fiber, right? So now that you spun the green fiber, why not leave the green fiber on the bobbin, add another lead to the flyer?
I could
do
spin
it on top, and then that way you wouldn't have to constantly load and unload bobbins.
I don't mind unloading. I mean, with the Lendrum, it's flipping the back part down. It's not like it is on...
Well, no, I understand that. I just mean you're having
to
constantly add to a bobbin, and ply.
I could, but I'd be constantly adding leaders the other way. Or just
leaders okay. This is an example of the different ways Laura and I approach things.
Yeah,
because I would definitely be like, okay, I know I'm going to split them all, so I'm going to take 2 bobbins and I'm going to cut 24 lengths of.
See, and it takes me longer to tie a leader than it does to just switch out the bobbin on the Lendrum.
You not just double loop it?
Yeah, you can, but like cutting all those lengths of string, keeping them organized, keeping them off of purl, like I just. On the Lendrum, you literally flip back to back and just slide it off. Well, but other people might not.
Whatever, Laura.
So, and I like my minis, and the pattern that I'm going to knit them for calls for minis. So,
you would still ply them.
No, I got what you're saying.
They would still end up as minis, but...
Yeah.
Mine is more of the lazy person's approach, I think, and yours is just meticulous, I think, in this instance.
I think it's just different ways of doing things. I don't think either one's more lazy or less lazy than the other. I think it's just
this episode is going to be the one where Laura disagrees with Leslie about everything.
Spinning-wise, shocker. And then the last thing I have are some Woolen spun bats from Joanna Spring. They were in a Mardi Gras set that she sent out a couple years ago. We're also in her bat club, so these are Cordell, Southdown, Targhee, and Surrey Silk. And they also came as little mini bats, and then I just picked out 3 and spun them end to end, kind of like Leslie was saying, but I didn't add different leaders. The other way you could approach that is not add different leaders and just spin them all end to end.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't necessarily end up with perfect little plied minis, assuming that you were going to break them just because you might spin one finer on one bobbin than the other.
And that's happening right now as I'm spinning. I'm just having Andy apply the last little bits.
And if we're using the wrong term for Andy and ply, it's not...
Oh, I'm sorry. It's bracelet ply.
Okay, yeah.
That's
I
not
thought there
what
might have been
meant
one,
to
but I
do.
couldn't remember what it was. So
it's bracelet ply. Thank you for correcting.
No, offense is the wrong word.
No, we're trying to correct our language as we think about it. So yeah. I'll bracelet ply as I run out on one bobbin to the other. And it'll be the same with this. I always bracelet ply the ends of my bobbins so that I come out even.
Right.
I don't keep loads of bobbins with leftover bits and pieces. Some people do, and then at the end of the year they like ply them all together, and it creates a really cool yarn that you can see like everything that you've spun throughout the year. That'd be cool for you.
It would be like 3 plies.
But yeah, I just bracelet ply everything. So those will be, and these were spun on the Matchless and Double Drive, using a Woolen method, long drawing, and just adding lots and lots of loft to the fiber. So those should be nice and warm. And I think that's going to actually become a baby hat or 2 when I knit that up. So most everything has plans. The singles to stay singles do not. And the purple Cory might end up as another Musselburgh hat, depending on how much I like this first Musselburgh hat. So we'll see. Because I do know some people that like purple.
I mean, yes, we both do. And Laura herself.
Yeah, I like purple. Just a smidge. Purple and grays are my jam. But yeah, that's it for spinning for me.
I have no spinning. I'm sure that will shock everyone. As far as reading, I've been reading the second book in the series I was reading, whose name I can't remember, but the second book is called The Exiled Fleet by J.S. Dewes, D-E-W-E-S. It's a sci-fi book, no real romance. There was a little bit in the first book, like a page worth of it in the first book, but there's none at all in the second. Which isn't a criticism, it's just a clarification. But it's really good. I finished it last night and then went promptly to bed, so I haven't started anything new. But one of my favorite sci-fi authors, Sarah King, finally, it's been years since she's put out a book. She's been sort of on a hiatus, and she just put out a new book in the Zero series, which is sort of a military sci-fi book. So I'm the first one used to be on Audible, and I had purchased it, so I still have it in my library. So I'm listening to the first one, and then I'll start reading the rest of them because I own the rest of them. What about you?
I have been listening to The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osmond. This is an adult mystery, like cozy mystery. It is giving me like Mrs. Halifax or Agatha Christie, Miss Marple kind of vibes. And I'm enjoying it. I'm just listening away as I have no internet. It was already downloaded on my phone, so I'd done the Libro FM thing. So yeah, that is it for me. I also, last weekend, thank goodness this happened last weekend, I got to take some awesome classes with the Maryland Sheep and Wool offered some winter classes. So I took one that was blending boards. Oh, and I should have brought my roll eggs. I'll do that next week. So I made tons of awesome roll eggs. And then I also learned a lot there about color inspiration. It was a great class. And then I took a finishing class, which was also great. That's part of the reason why I spun the singles to stay singles, because I want to practice my fulling. So yeah, I'm going to full that, and I'm also going to full the South American wool with the viscose neps to see if that makes the neps pop out, because the neps, because they're viscose, which is a plant product, like a plant rayon almost, they should not felt, so they should actually like pop out a little bit more. We're gonna play with it and see what happens. That's one of my favorite things to do, is just experiment and see what happens. So those two are gonna be folds. And overall, it was just a great opportunity to take classes on Zoom with some really, really excellent teachers. So I had a great time of that. And then we had a Patreon event, which was also loads of fun.
Yeah, it's always lots of fun when we have our Patreon events, and we get to sort of ask you guys questions and see what you're doing.
Yeah, and I watched before my power went out Thursday morning, there's a women's pro hockey league.
Yeah.
So I watched that Salty Joe was telling us about. So I watched Buffalo, who's not a great team. And it's funny, I told my parents, I was like, hey, did you know there's a women's professional hockey team in Buffalo? And one of their friends' wives actually runs their social media. Oh. So they were like, yes, of course we knew that. And I was like, well, you didn't tell me. Love. Yeah, but apparently they just got a contract with like ESPN Plus, which
that's wonderful.
I subscribe to so I can watch my Penguins when I have internet. Speaking of being salty. But she lives in Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
That's why. But yeah, I think that's it for me. Do you have anything else?
I don't. I haven't had, just tons and tons of time to craft lately. Plus, with it being so cold this week, I just wanted to sleep. So after work, I'll take a 2-hour nap, and it's amazing.
You've gone into hibernation mode. You've also had a lot of stresses going on, and you've had some dental woes, which typically make me want to sleep.
Although I did find a great endodontist who I will use in the future if I ever need, which I will, no doubt, because my teeth just like to fall apart no matter what I do. But and work has been very stressful the past couple of weeks, just because there's a lot to do and there's not enough hours, and I refuse to work 12 hours a day just to get things done.
Nope.
It's just not.
Not when you're not getting paid for it.
I mean, I've been salaried since I was 20.
Yeah,
but
no.
Yeah, I mean,
salary means that you work 40 hours a week. Like, that is the contracts, this quasi-contract that you have with us. I mean, I understand I'm salaried too, and there are some weeks that I'm working well over those 40 hours.
When there's an emergency, I have no problem putting in extra time.
Absolutely.
But I can't treat every request like an emergency, so mental health is a thing.
It is.
And you should prioritize it.
And so are setting boundaries.
Yes. Just because you work at home doesn't mean you work all the time.
That's really a struggle.
Yeah, and I'm certain it's been a struggle for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
So,
and I also find with my commute is kind of like my decompress time. So I could see people who are now working from home if you don't have that commute to kind of like decompress from the day. Especially when I lived 30-minute commute each way, like my afternoon, in the mornings I would listen to podcasts, but in the afternoon I would be like, this is my quiet chill time.
Yeah, that is something that I miss. I don't miss having to drive to and from work. When I worked in Tunica, it was about a 40-minute each way. When I worked in Atlantic City, New Jersey, it was about 25-30 depending on traffic. But that time is really restorative. Especially like in the afternoons, like Laura said, I wouldn't necessarily have anything on. It could be completely silent.
Yeah.
But it's just that.
Well, now you're trading that for nap time.
Yes.
So it works.
And I'm happy with that.
It's a good trade-off.
So, we hope that you find time to prioritize your mental and emotional health and
set boundaries.
Yeah.
It's hard, yo. You gotta do it, though. You got to do it.
It's like putting on your oxygen mask before helping others.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be any good to anybody if you burn yourself out.
Absolutely.
So, with that in mind, you guys have a great week, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.